I never thought carrying my own groceries could turn into a full-blown neighborhood war. But when my HOA's self-appointed queen, Karen, accused me of stealing her groceries and called the cops on me, everything spiraled out of control. What started as a simple misunderstanding quickly turned into a nightmare that exposed just how far some people will go for control. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another wild HOA drama. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this one ends. It gets way crazier than you think. It was a sunny Saturday morning when I drove back from the local supermarket, my car filled to the brim with bags of groceries. It had been a long week at work, and I was looking forward to a quiet weekend, maybe cook a nice meal, catch up on shows, and finally relax. I parked in my assigned spot, one of the perks of living in a gated HOA community that prided itself on being organized and neighborly. At least that's what they said on the brochure. The reality? It was more like a daily audition for who could out-petty whom. The moment I stepped out of my car, I noticed her. Karen. Short blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and an expression that said she was perpetually inconvenienced by other people's existence. She stood across the street with her little dog, glaring like she was waiting for something to offend her. I paid her no mind. I popped open the trunk, grabbed my first set of grocery bags, and started walking toward my townhouse. That's when I heard her voice, sharp and accusing. "Excuse me? What do you think you're doing?" I froze, confused. "Those are my groceries," she barked. My first instinct was to laugh because surely this was a misunderstanding. But when I turned, she was storming toward me, heels clicking against the pavement like gunshots. I tried explaining that these were my groceries, straight from the store. I had the receipt in the bag. But she wouldn't have it. She claimed she had placed an online order that was supposed to be delivered around this time, and that I must have intercepted it. I knew then this was going to be one of those encounters. Her voice grew louder, attracting attention. Curtains moved in nearby windows. A few neighbors peeked out, some shaking their heads, others curious for their daily dose of entertainment. I offered to show her my receipt, but she refused to even look. Instead, she whipped out her phone, muttering about people stealing from the community. I felt my stomach drop when I realized what she was doing. She was calling the cops. Over groceries. I didn't think they'd take it seriously, but they did. Within minutes, a patrol car rolled up. The officers got out, calm but serious, asking questions. Karen wasted no time spinning her story, pointing at me like she was uncovering some grand crime. I explained everything, showed the receipt, my car, the store logo on the bags. It should have been over right there, but Karen kept interrupting, insisting I was lying. The officers finally checked the store information and verified everything. I was cleared, but not before half the neighborhood had come out to watch. Karen didn't even apologize. She just crossed her arms and muttered, "We'll see about this." That's when I knew this wasn't the end. Something about the way she said it told me she was planning something bigger, something worse. The next morning, I woke up to a notice taped to my door from the HOA. Violation, improper conduct, and harassment toward another resident. My stomach turned cold. She had filed a complaint against me. The notice accused me of threatening behavior, verbal aggression, and unauthorized handling of another resident's property. It was like reading a report from an alternate reality. I'd done none of that. I immediately sent an email to the HOA board requesting a meeting. No reply. Days went by and the tension in the neighborhood grew thicker. People whispered when I walked by. Some avoided me altogether. Karen had been talking, spreading her version of the story. I learned from another neighbor that she was claiming I had pretended to be a delivery driver and stolen her groceries as revenge for previous HOA disputes, none of which ever happened. It was absurd, but the HOA wasn't laughing. They fined me $150 for the supposed incident. When I refused to pay, things escalated. Karen started watching me. Every time I stepped outside, she was there, taking pictures, writing notes, pretending to walk her dog, but always just watching. One afternoon, I came home to find a letter slid under my door. No envelope, just a sheet of paper that said, "You don't belong here." My hands shook as I read it. I'd never had problems with anyone before moving here. I paid my dues, followed the rules, kept my lawn immaculate. But Karen had decided I was the villain in her little HOA soap opera. A few days later, I came home to find trash bags dumped near my doorstep, Ripped open, content scattered. I checked my security camera footage. There she was, in her pink sweater, dumping them herself at 2 a.m. I took the footage straight to the HOA office, confident it would clear everything up. But the manager, a man named Doug, barely looked at it. "We'll handle it internally," he said. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. Instead, I got another violation notice, this time for leaving trash unattended. That was the moment I realized the HOA wasn't just ignoring Karen. They were enabling her. Maybe they were afraid of her, or maybe she had friends on the board. Either way, I was on my own. I decided to document everything, every interaction, every violation notice, every bizarre thing she did. I installed better cameras, recorded audio when I was outside, and started keeping a log. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me out of my own home. But as the days went by, her tactics got bolder. She started filing noise complaints, saying I was playing loud music at night when I wasn't even home. I'd return to find HOA letters and warnings stacked like bills. One evening, I found something that made my blood run cold. My car tires slashed. Not one, but all four. There were no cameras that caught her doing it directly, but I saw her the next morning smirking as she watered her plants. That smirk said everything. She thought she was untouchable. But I wasn't done fighting. I decided to take the matter beyond the HOA. I filed a police report for harassment and vandalism. That was the beginning of a war neither of us could walk away from. The police took my statement, but said there wasn't enough evidence to charge her. They advised me to get a restraining order if the behavior continued. So I did. That's when things really exploded. Karen found out, probably from someone on the HOA board, and she went ballistic. The next morning, I woke up to find "thief" spray-painted in red across my garage door. She'd finally gone too far. This time I had her on camera. I handed everything to the police, and for once, they acted fast. Karen was issued a citation for vandalism. But if I thought that would stop her, I was wrong. The HOA immediately called a special meeting to address community tensions. When I showed up, the room was full. Karen sat at the front with her arms crossed, glaring at me like she was the hero of this story. She launched into a speech about how she was being bullied and victimized. She even produced fake photos, clearly doctored, of supposed damage I had done to her property. Some of the board members nodded along, clearly biased, but I had my own evidence. I presented my footage, my documentation, and the police report. The room fell silent. For the first time, Karen's smug expression faltered. The HOA president, a woman named Linda, cleared her throat and said they would review the situation. That was HOA code for, "We don't want to admit we were wrong." I left the meeting exhausted, but relieved that the truth was finally out. Or so I thought. The next week, a notice arrived. Karen was fined for vandalism, and I was cleared of all prior violations. It should have ended there. But the damage was done. The neighbors had seen everything. Karen's reputation was in tatters. Some people avoided her, others whispered behind her back. And me? I finally got peace. For a while. Until one night, a loud bang echoed outside my house. I rushed to the window and saw flames. My trash bins were on fire. The fire department put it out quickly, but it was clearly arson. The cameras didn't catch her this time. She'd learned to avoid them. The cops suspected it was her, but with no proof, nothing could be done. That's when I realized something terrifying. Karen might never stop. This wasn't about groceries anymore. It was about power, control. She couldn't stand that she'd lost. But instead of fear, I felt resolve. I contacted a lawyer, started the process of suing both her and the HOA for harassment and negligence. It took months, but I gathered enough evidence to make my case airtight. Emails, security footage, recorded meetings, everything. By the time the court date came, Karen looked defeated. The judge ruled in my favor. She was ordered to pay damages, and the HOA was fined for ignoring the issue. A few weeks later, Karen moved out. The house went up for sale, and rumor had it she tried pulling the same stunt in another neighborhood before being turned away. I stood on my porch one last time, breathing in the peace I had fought for. The quiet was different now. It wasn't just silence. It was freedom. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who's had to deal with an HOA nightmare of their own. Trust me, there's always another Karen out there, and you won't want to miss what happens next.